Hey, what is up guys, and welcome back to the channel. These are the daily races for the week commencing Monday the 15th of August 2022. Three brand new races this week. One is a tuning race, one is a Group 2 race, so it's good to see them make a return. And then we've got the usual more endurance type Group 3 event. Up first, we've got footage from what I'd like to basically call the track day event. This is the tuning race at Blue Moon Speedway. We're using the Honda Civic Type R here, the 2020 model, I believe, with a few additions. Didn't really get the tune perfect here, and it actually turns out that overall, pace-wise, the Volkswagen Scirocco R is the standout there, which it pretty much always is, closely followed by what I'd say is probably the Megane in a close second. This Honda, however, very off the pace. In comparison to those two cars. There is a Honda Civic Integra Type R, Honda Integra Type R running up in the I guess higher positions as well, so that seems to be quite competitive. But this Honda Civic, I believe there was like two or three of us in this race. Basically we all ended up towards the back, and I think that's mostly because of the power restrictor we actually had to use to basically enter this car into this event, where I believe you don't actually have to power restrict the other cars as much. The Honda Civic Type R obviously putting out an absolute ton of horsepower, but I thought I'd give it a go anyway. The majority of this race really just felt like a bit of a track day race. It feels very sort of amateurish, kind of how these events should be really with a daily race. It always feels like kind of an entry level where people come and sort of test cars and just have a bit of fun while doing it. I believe this race doesn't affect your driver rating or your safety rating. I didn't see a penalty throughout. Bit of a dull race for me really, kind of on my own with this guy here from Finland, so it was kind of nice to have a little bit of a battle and kind of keep myself busy, even though I know my car just doesn't have the outright pace of the front runners. I kind of had my own battle with this Megane here, and thankfully in the end we are actually going to come out on top and manage to get P7. But we are going to have some nice side-by-side moments. He did make a few mistakes, and one of those mistakes overall really kind of cost him any kind of position over me. Although, you know, when it came to the straights, that guy was basically flying off, which you can see there. He's instantly pulled it back. However, a little bit of throttle control and some decent corners, and we managed to get right on the back of him and basically keep ourselves in it with a bit of slipstream. So, you know, kind of, you know, felt quite good to have a little battle. But nothing too kind of special or really out there when it comes to daily race A this week. I could see it being a whole heap of fun if you can get a good tune for the Scirocco going. I may actually look into doing a video on that. I'm also tempted to pretty much do a review on it. If I were to do that, it'd probably be up Wednesday. I might kind of dedicate a day just to the Scirocco, why it's pretty much one of the meta cars this week, and try and get a decent tune for it. But I definitely wouldn't really recommend this Honda Civic Type R, the more modern ones anyway, because they just have to be sort of restricted far too much, and it really does put your pace off. Full start is on, so just be careful of that. Apart from that, I believe I didn't see a single penalty for sort of track limits and such. I don't think I ever do in daily race A. I think that's because the majority of it just doesn't affect your driver rating, so it's kind of go in and do what you want. But I feel like it would be a good place to kind of test some more front wheel drive cars. You might find that the Scirocco might not suit you, but something like the Megane or the Clio or something really will kind of suit you in the long term. So who knows. Decent race, but nothing kind of too exciting, as I'm basically just chasing this guy down in front until he eventually does make the bigger mistake and basically ruins his own race. Towards the end he did manage to kind of get on the back of me and sort of catch me again, but we did kind of keep it clean and held off. It was really cool to have a few side-by-side moments. So as you can see, the pace advantage on the straights is kind of obvious. It's all basically up to me to run in the slipstream. I won't be gaining any time. If anything, I'll just be losing time, but it will kind of keep me at least a little bit closer than if I wasn't running in it. And as you can see, by the time we get into the right-hander, he's basically a long way ahead at this point. And I'm kind of thinking at this point, okay, I'm going to end up, on my own for the rest of the race, but not in the way I kind of expected, as he slams into the wall, and then he's going to have a little moment here, go a little bit too deep, run wide onto the grass, which is always annoying because you basically end up stuck, and try and get himself out of there. It's not gone too well for him. However, we have managed to get a P7, and it's going to stay that way for the rest of the race, as we round the last corner on lap 6 to kind of crawl across the line in P7. So a fun race, definitely a place where you can test out some more front wheel drive cars, and probably have a decent bit of fun and probably a bit of carnage. I feel like it'll get more hectic throughout the week. Race B, well, this is at Fuji Speedway using the Group 2 cars, and this was probably the most chaotic race of them all for me, really. Everything just seemed to happen, as I'm going to mess my braking up, straight away, and just little love tap on the French guy here. So sorry about that. But getting used out of these Group 2 cars is definitely a whole heap of fun. However, it ends up being a one-mate race pretty much. I believe the only other car that was in this race was one single Mercedes CLK, and it basically ran around at the back the whole race. Everyone else was in the 2016 GTR, which seems to be pretty much the meta car for this, and it'll probably end up being a massive one-mate race, which is a bit of a letdown, because it is cool to kind of see all the GT 500 cars out and about, as well as the CLK. I'm going to do it a little bit late there, so that's kind of my fault. However, he's going to basically make sure I run wide and pay for it, but we've kind of kept it going. But yeah, I mean, not a bad race, just a bit chaotic. Everyone seemed to kind of make mistakes. This was basically, I think, probably the second time this race had been ran all week, so a lot of people probably jumping in for the first time, and it's always weird trying to adjust to these different kind of styles of driving that you need for like Group 2, Group 3, Group 4 and such. So yeah, definitely a fun race, and it's nice to see the Group 2s back. However, for me, I definitely preferred Watkins Glen last week with the Group 4s. I felt that was definitely one of the best races to be added to GT7. This one, as much as I absolutely love the Group 2 cars, I'm not the biggest fan of Fuji, as it just flows nicely, but when it comes to actual racing, you feel like a lot of the time, even when you get close to someone, the track will kind of weave around to a point where you can't overtake. So it just wasn't the most fun race, I guess, and I spent a lot of time just kind of benefiting from other people's accidents. Definitely not the cleanest race I've ever done. I definitely felt I could have probably raced a lot cleaner, but as I go into it more and I practice more and kind of get used to these cars again, it'll probably the carnage will probably die down throughout the week, and obviously my driving will become much better, because I think I spent a lot of the time just kind of missing braking points and stuff, but it kind of happens. I don't always race online. I'm not the biggest fan of it sometimes. This week, this probably won't be my go-to. I was kind of hoping it would be, as we have the bright pink GTR spinning out, as someone likes to get up the back of us. So yeah, a bit frustrating. This race really, it just felt like a bunch of carnage. As we actually have another YouTuber, Wind, he's in this event, and I believe he's going to make his move on the pair of us now, as I believe he was just riding our slipstream. I'm just going to move over just to make it a little bit more difficult, but I'm not going to fight it too much. I'm going to let him go. The worst thing you can kind of do is hit someone when you're both making content. So yeah, so well done to him. He's actually come from a long way back, to basically, I think he ended up P2, whereas myself, I believe I ended up, I think, P4, just outside the podium positions. I did feel like I had the pace as the race went on. My pace definitely improved. However, with this guy behind me just nudging me all the time, and I believe I've raced with him before, and it was a bit of a problem then as well. So it was just basically just constant nudges from this guy behind me. Again, that late braking in these cars, having to readjust to them. I don't want to entirely blame him. However, if I'm kind of defending from you whilst also trying to attack, just kind of watch where your braking zones are. And the same goes to me. I had a few moments like you've seen. I'm basically just going to kind of close up the gap to the French guy in front, And I feel like if the guy behind me hadn't got, as close as he did, and I wasn't defending too much from him, and I could have, maybe pulled a gap, I could have probably got myself into those podium positions. So again, it's just kind of a race where you're going to benefit from a lot of the chaos in the early days. However, I think the racing will kind of improve as the week goes on. And as you can see, we're just not getting close enough. Even in the slipstream, we're closing up, but it's never just close enough. As you can see, the gap's kind of maintained as I've been, sort of defending from these pair behind me for the last couple of laps. And I'm going to come across the line in P4. Not too bad. Could have been worse, but I do feel like it could have been better, and we could have snuck onto the podium. But that is daily race B. Now, absolutely my favourite this week is the longest race on a really weird layout of Lake Maggiore. I was expecting it to be the full layout. I'm actually glad it's not, because I feel like this kind of layout we've got actually keeps the racing close. Now, I didn't make the mistake of kind of hanging out on the mediums this time. Tyre wear is definitely a kind of a big thing this week. Fuel consumption, you won't need to pit for fuel, but when it comes to tyre deg, it's definitely kind of a big thing. I did around about 6 laps as the respawning car's going to sandwich me there. But yeah, I did about 6 laps on the mediums and then had to pit in. So I had pace early doors, kind of got myself up in some decent positions. However, I just sort of left myself out on the mediums too long. I'd probably say like 5. I should have pitted in between 4 and 5 and got myself onto them hard tyres, because that is a compound you have to use. So if you do start on the hards, obviously you'll be able to kind of avoid the pit stop. But I wouldn't recommend that, because by the time everyone else takes the pit stop, they've probably stretched out a decent lead. The medium tyres seemingly, very quick around here. They're definitely no slouch. So definitely that boost for a couple of laps is probably recommended, in my opinion. Like I said, just to stick out on the mediums, just to keep up, or maybe use some, the mediums to do a few overtakes early doors, and then box in, I'd say probably between lap 4 and 5, because they do wear off very, very quick. As we've already gone up a bunch of positions, I had a weird glitch as well, where my last lap time would have actually put me, I believe, in about P4 for this race. However, it sort of ended a couple of seconds after, and all of a sudden it was going off of my lap time previous. So I don't know really what went off there. So I've actually started on my original lap, which was about a 119. My second lap was in the 118s. So I've started on my slower lap, but it kind of made the race a lot more entertaining. I absolutely love working my way up through a grid, especially in the Group 3s and the Group 4s. I feel like it's just more enjoyable starting behind people and really putting that racecraft to use, as we're actually going to do 2 in one corner here. The Porsche very slippy, when you're under braking in that corner, definitely at risk of spinning if you kind of brake too hard. However, we've overtook 2 in a single corner. It's not actually going to be the only time we're going to do that, as we really do seem to have pace, like early doors. We are really, really kind of pushing our way up the grid and getting onto the back of everyone, as we're already 2 seconds faster on this lap, which is lap 2, as we're about to go around the final corner into lap 3. So definitely a really enjoyable race. The Porsche is probably a standout, as well as obviously the Supra with its insane speed when it comes to the straights. And the Supra is definitely, still to be kind of looked into. But the Porsche just feels like it's kind of made for this track, although it's a little bit, I guess, weird to drive. It's very unique in the way it drives. Definitely requires a lot of throttle control, and the brakes are a little bit sensitive on certain corners. Very prone to kind of locking up and getting that back end out, and kind of causing accidents. But I'd actually say definitely, to try the Porsche out. If that doesn't work, maybe try out, something like the Supra. Usually my go-to is the Genesis, but I saw the Porsche performing well, and I thought, you know what, maybe it's time to try something, different out. As we're actually going to overtake another 2 at the same corner. He's going to turn in a bit there, kind of maybe not realised I'm there. But we have kind of, kept our momentum going, as we're now up to P5 and chasing down the Subaru. Sadly, the tyres are going to start wearing off the next lap, so we're not really going to have that outright pace we did at the beginning. However, to go from our starting position up to P5, definitely a good first stint. After the pit stops, I feel like staying out that extra lap compared to some of the front runners really did kind of affect my overall result. However, in the end, we did have a very, very close race. and it was really, really enjoyable and fun throughout. Definitely not a single moment where I kind of felt like I was bored, even when I was kind of, running around after my pit stop, sort of more or less on my own, trying to get used to them hard tyres, adjusting to the different compound. Really felt enjoyable. So even in the quietest moment of the race, which I've actually cut out because I feel like just watching me do lap upon lap, a few laps, just adjusting to the hards just isn't that fun to watch, especially when I'm not really racing anyone at that point. I'm sort of on my own, but even then it didn't feel boring to kind of use. But the hard tyres really did feel massively different compared to the mediums. Really felt like they took some time to sort of get into that window where they felt quick. Towards the end of the race, I really did feel like I had pace on the hards. But for definitely, I'd say probably between lap 3 and 5, up to that point, that the pace just didn't feel there for the hard tyres. But like I said, towards the end, they really did kind of come alive, and I felt much more comfortable on them. And I felt like I was really kind of taking advantage of what this Porsche is about. I feel when it kind of comes to one lap pace, it's unbeatable this week. But I feel like, cars like in front, like the Subaru and such, are just, I guess, more consistent when it comes to overall pace. So with a Porsche, you can put in a really quick lap, and then your pace just seems to go for a lap before you put in another really quick lap. And it kind of felt like I was yo-yoing between really fast one lap pace, and then I'd kind of have an off lap, and then I'd go back and put a really quick lap in. My actual fastest lap came on the hards as well towards the end, so there definitely weren't that much difference in them. They just felt like they took a lot more time to get used to. So I may actually recover this race, maybe in the Porsche, maybe in something different, and try and just do the hard strategy without pit stopping, because the hard tyres definitely do last much longer than the mediums. Like I said, by this point they're just really kind of gone. I know the bar isn't down there, but I feel like I think at this point they were about halfway through the life, and maybe I should have pitted a previous lap or something, and kind of done the undercut. However, I kind of thought, I'll try the overcut, and it did end up costing me in the end, as we're on the back of a Subaru here, 2 Subarus actually, and I'm kind of thinking something's going to go wrong, and it did, as I believe he actually made a couple of mistakes throughout this race. As you can see, the leaders have now pitted at lap 5, and I feel like that's when I should have gone in, or possibly lap 4, and just kind of done the undercut. However, I felt like maybe I would have been out in too much traffic or just something like that. But looking back now and looking at the track map, it's kind of weird to see that all the cars are still quite close no matter what. So I feel like I would have been kind of maybe out in clean air by the time I've done my pit stop, and maybe not too close to the back markers where it usually all kicks off kind of in the mid pack and the back. And that was kind of my main worry. As we're it seems like here, this is obviously, like I said, a Subaru, and it feels like the Subaru is much kinder on its tyres, where this Porsche is basically just it has the pace, but it's chewed through them. So in these dying stages, I've just got no pace to kind of keep up to that Subaru. Obviously the Subaru known for being really good on its handling. The Porsche is a little bit twitchy, and it's kind of showing here, like when the tyres are gone, I've just not got the pace, as we're already half a second down on our fastest lap. So a bit frustrating, although our fastest lap is very close to the leaders, and I believe that fastest lap is actually set by a Corvette, so it's actually kind of cool to see a Corvette in the race. I feel like it's a very overlooked car as the leader carries on, and we're actually going to get into the pits. So that Subaru again using its tyre life to kind of carry on, as well as the Supra behind us, and I believe there's another Porsche there in P3. So a bunch of us looking like we're pitting at this point. I'm just going to jump on the hards. I'm not going to refuel because refueling isn't needed in this race, but a tyre change was definitely needed, as the crew, they're going to chuck the tyres on, and away we go. We've come out in P12, so near the back, and we're actually going to run in a bit of clean air here. The cars behind us are both pitters, so we're essentially behind last place, I guess. At this point, as we have another car pitting, so that's moved us up to P11, as we go on to lap 8. at this point I'm thinking, well, have these guys pitted or not? Like, have I really messed the pit stop strategy up? But we are actually going to get very close to the front towards the end, as we're going to make another position up here, as the Subaru looking like it's just stayed out for a bit too long and really screwed his race up. But I didn't notice this until looking back. He actually took someone out, or they both kind of took each other out, really. It's looking like the blue ones actually hit him at this point. And they're kind of, you know, nowhere now. And I believe that was that was Mara, which was a French guy, which made a couple of mistakes throughout. As we're actually going to get another couple of positions here, another position, as the Supra is actually going to come out in front of us. So we're going to move up to P8 as the Supra just comes out in front of us. Our eventual race winner, I believe. He really did have a good kind of final run. At this point I'm still kind of adjusting to the hard tyres. I'm feeling like there's just no pace in them. The Supra definitely felt more, or kind of looks like it was, you know, enjoying the hard tyres more than my Porsche did. But we are going to kind of stick with him, and we're actually going to try and get in the slipstream here and make a move, but I believe it's not going to, you know, kind of be pulled off in the end. As we can see, we're going into this awkward right-hander. The Supra's going to leave it out wide. We're going to get very close to each other, but keep it clean without contact, which is always awesome to do, as the Supra's now got the inside line, and I'm going to kind of back out from it, because I could see an accident coming at that point, and it's just a bit too tight through here to kind of do the cutback, as we get, you know, back in his slipstream and basically chase him down again. You know, the Supra, again, really, really quick car. It's definitely no slouch in terms of its, you know, its pace or anything. So it was just a case of kind of hanging on to the back of him and basically just using him as a bit of a, you know, a bit of a shield, really, to kind of get us, you know, through the laps, because obviously the Supra is essentially the meta Group 3 car at most tracks. It's very quick, very good on its acceleration, as the Subaru now comes out of the pits. That is the one that we were following early doors, and in the end I believe it was actually him and this Toyota Supra here that had the big battle for the win, as this guy behind me here is actually going to get my approval of Muppet of the Week. Yeah, a bit of a, yeah, I can't really say what I want to say, but I was very frustrated now for a couple of laps with him hanging behind me. We're getting into the later stages of the race, and I feel like if I didn't get so caught up just watching this guy constantly because of the way he drove, I feel like I really could have, you know, pushed a bit harder. But always when you get this kind of driver behind you, it, you know, kind of frustrates you. As at this point I'm not actually watching him, so obviously I'm using the replay here, but eventually he will just kind of get me out of the blue. And that's kind of when the problems really started. So I'm just kind of going to show you the early footage of him. I didn't actually notice how close he was at this point, because I'm still kind of trying to push up to the Supra and use him, as he's going to try and get down there, but it's not going to work. So he's obviously ran over the sausage curb, and that's kind of backed him, you know, off. But this is where I'm actually going to take notice of him for the first time. So we're coming into the left-hander at turn 1, and you're going to see out of absolutely nowhere from all that way back, he's going to attempt the move and just bump us. At this point I'm thinking, like, you know, I've kind of seen you in my mirror, so why would you need to kind of, you know, make the move from that far back? Surely you thought, you know, you kind of knew it was never on, you know, I'm going to hit the corner before you even, you know, get there. But, you know, you just went in. I definitely didn't expect it. Now at this point I'm kind of taking notice to him, and I'm thinking, right, I'm going to have to defend here, because he's going to make some really late lunges, as he's going to try it again. So I'm going to actually keep wide this time and just hope to God he doesn't get in front, and he doesn't. So I'm going to manage to kind of cover it off. You know, I've left him room there to kind of do any errors he wants, but then he's going to try again there, where we've already kind of, we're going to back out of a move, I believe, on the Supra that's in front of us, so we know he's not going to get us there. Luckily he did back off, or else that could have been us spun around. And I believe he's actually going to try it again here with another really late move, that it was just never going to happen. But we're just going to kind of get that covered, and Karma is going to hit him pretty quickly, as we've now obviously spent so much time defending that the Supra has pretty much gone. But we are actually going to catch up, so I don't know really what happened up front. But everyone seemed to end up back in a cluster, as he's going to try it really late again, overshoot it, and we're going to go through. And now he's actually been that kind of deep and stuff that the McLaren's on the back of him, and he's going to run wide. And thankfully that is going to be the end of our Muppet of the Week. DualSense, shout out to you. No offence to you, mate. But there was, some moves that kind of shouldn't have happened there. So we're on the final lap here, and we're all, covered by around about 2.5 seconds to 3 seconds from first down to about, 6th, which is the McLaren behind me. I'm going to get a decent run down here. I'm actually going to get at the side of the Supra, and we're actually going to make this move kind of stick. I'm thinking, do you know what, got to be careful on them brakes, and the Supra, we're just going to cover him off, and we're going to get a decent run out of theirs. His rear end looking like it's all over the shot, and now we're actually going to be on the back of the Corvette, so really cool to see that car. And I did go for a bit of a wishful move at the end, however we didn't quite manage to pull it off, as we're now all kind of just pushing, expecting these two up front to kind of make the mistake. So that is the Supra and the yellow Subaru from earlier on in the video, and you can see it ran it too deep, and the Supra is going to get the run down the inside there, as we can't quite get the run on the Corvette, and we're going to come home P4. So definitely an awesome race, and I'm kind of glad I started from further back, because it just really made for an entertaining race throughout. And yeah, definitely the race of the week. So this is new. This is our onboard of the week, and this comes from the start of the daily race C. So we can see the Jaguar's kind of gone off there, and we're actually going to get him respawn and sandwich us between both the Jaguar and the BMW. They're going to make contact, and then all of a sudden we're going to see Jaguar out of nowhere. So luckily he got ghosted there as he came across, or else that could have been a very bad accident as we make our way past the BMW on lap 1. So that is our onboard of the week. So with it being such a big race, I thought I'd do some highlights, and it's going to consist of some overtakes and just my personal favourite moments from the race. Up first is our first move on 2 cars in 1 corner, as we get up past the Porsche and the McLaren of both DualSense and Marie. And yeah, that is that move covered off and done. So really enjoyed making moves there, and I feel like I'll be pulling them off all week. Next lap we did another one, and this is on the race winner as well as another Porsche, and we're going to get up the inside. He's going to turn in, and we're going to keep our momentum going. He's also going to bump the Supra there, and yeah, that's that move nicely done. So if you race me, expect me to pull them off pretty much all week. And finally, our clip of the week is our move last off for P4 on the Supra. We're going to get it down the inside again at this corner. Definitely a great place for overtaking if you get it right, and we're just going to cover it off, and that is going to be the Supra passed and our final finishing position. So that is all the races for this week. I hope you enjoyed them. To be honest, race A, again, like I said, feels a bit like a track day. But there is potential there. The Group 2 race, just a bit too cluster for me, and a bit too much of a one make. As much as I absolutely love seeing the Group 2 GT500 cars and such back, it's too many GTRs for my liking. And the highlight is obviously the Group 3 race, obviously the one that I did in this Porsche here. Definitely the highlight of the week. Really enjoyable, and I hope to see some of you guys out there on track throughout the week. So expect to find me in the Group 3 race, daily race C. So I'll see you all later. That is going to be the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Take care. Peace.